What is going on, EoP sports fans? It's almost 9 o'clock. We're a little late tonight. Sorry about that, guys. Some technical issues. Shiznit happens. It's okay. Yeah, I said that. But we are back here. Got a lot to cover tonight. The Phillies are on right now. The game just got tied up just a few moments ago, 4-4. A little bit of a rough fifth inning for Christopher Sanchez, as well as an error. I don't know. I didn't hear what they said. I'm guessing the error was on Bryce. But,
it looked like it was on Bryce, yeah.
It looked like it, but you never know. You never know anymore how they score errors in Major League Baseball. But there's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the Phillies. We're going to talk about JT Realmuto going down for surgery right now. We're going to talk about Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, the drama that's not there in my eyes. We're going to touch on the Flyers conversation tonight. We're going to remind you guys this is brought to you by Sherry'sTickets.com. We're going to remind you it's also brought to you by CherryInjuryLaw.com, DolansBar.com, as well as PhillySportsTrips.com. And Joe, of course, can't mention Philly Sports Trips without saying happy birthday to our boy Vince, the owner of Philly Sports Trips. We've been there with him since the get, since they started. We started. So big old happy birthday for him, and hopefully he's having a great day. That man. I mean, it kind of seems funny for a guy who gets the jet set around for his job to say, I hope he has a good day, because I feel like he's got a lot of good days when it comes to that. But I know he also has a youngster and a wife at home, so it doesn't always make it easy.
Yeah, and I was actually texting. I texted him happy birthday earlier, and when he texted me back, well, I was texting him about Baltimore to see if he was going to be there on Saturday, day before Father's Day, and he said, yes, he will be. And I asked him about where they're going to be tailgating, stuff like that, and he said, just got off the plane from London. He said, I'll send you all the needed information tomorrow. And I'm thinking, like, this is Wednesday. And the series ended on Sunday. So they made that a full-on trip, and the man came back from London on his birthday. So, yeah, you're 100% right. He is jet-setting around, and happy birthday to Vince Rizzuto.
Yeah, happy birthday. Great guy. And like I said, it's been great working with him and everybody over there at Philly Sports Trips. He's got a great crew over there. So, guys, if you have not, you haven't had a chance, check it out, PhillySportsTrips.com. We'll get to that in a moment. And the Phillies are kind of having problems getting out of this fifth inning. It is now 6-4 Boston. So the Phillies, actually they get it. Okay, they did get out at the last second there. So it is at the end of the fifth, but they do tack on 2 more runs. So let's see what the Phillies can make a comeback on this. But Joe, let's talk.
What the problem is? You know what the problem is? The Phillies suck. Okay. The Phillies are awful right now. They are a tough watch. I can't even get through it.
Yes, Dives. I did say that. I know. Sorry. Joe, real quick, because we're going to talk about JT Realmuto. That's the big news right now. But your thoughts on the London series? I was watching it very intently, as I do most games. I had to cover the post game for the Saturday game. What were your thoughts? Did you like it? Could you leave it? Doesn't really matter to you. Where do you put this London game?
I actually thought it was pretty cool. I loved it. I loved all the coverage that, even the Phillies Twitter was putting out. Of course, we were busy left and right putting stuff up. I really liked seeing, Chase Utley interacting with everybody. Cole Hamels was there, Victorino, Jimmy Ron. I really loved seeing that 08 team. Ryan Howard was there. I mean, the list just goes on. And, I mean, the games itself, I mean, they were scripted. I mean, of course, the Mets had to win that second game. And, of course, I'm joking. But what I'm not joking about is Nick Castellanos and that final play, the 2-3 double play. And in my wildest of imaginations of how that game could have ended, I would have never, ever thought of that. I mean, what just a lackluster, end to a rally that it really looked like the Phillies were going to come back and win. And Nick goes out there and he does Nick things. And the post-game presser, he even said, I thought of kicking the ball foul, which I didn't even know was allowed. So maybe he should have. I mean, if he messed up that much.
If he kicked the ball, if it was still in play, would that be an out?
I don't know. I don't know how any of that works, because apparently I didn't even know you can kick the ball out of bounds. But I mean, hey, went there.
Here's my thing: is that's why I didn't really get on Nick Castellanos. Your bat literally explodes. There's no controlling that. Got to give the Mets catcher really a lot of a round of applause. That was a tough play to make, and he made it. I actually, when it first happened, real quick, I thought he didn't even catch it. I didn't think the first baseman caught it. The way it happened, so bang bang quickly, and then I'm like, oh, they called him out. I'm like, oh, he must have caught that. I didn't. It was just a quick angle. The camera switched over real fast. But it was kind of one of those games where I thought both teams were trying to give it away.
Yeah.
You win. No, you take the win. Like we're trying to be nice to you over here, but.
I know, and I was so wrong because I'm watching the play happen, and he touches home plate, and I'm like, okay, force out. Oh, that's 2 outs. In my wildest mind, I did not even think that this guy was going to be able to throw it down the first. They get Nick, and then it does happen. I'm like, why did I think Nick was going to beat that out? Like it was such a head scratcher of an ending. All over. I mean, the overall trip of it all, I thought was really cool. Just wish that they would have pulled it out and got the double sweep.
Yeah, no, it would have been nice to get the full 2-series sweep because, like I said, I count that as 2 different series because that's kind of where they lined it up because they had the two home, 2 away just earlier in May. I mean, but overall, Nick Castellanos seems to be doing better, especially over the last, since the Brewers series, I guess. Having better at bats. We saw that triple tonight. Could have been in the Parker with the cutoff guy kind of fumbling the ball. Kyle Schwarber last night, 2 Schwarber bombs because everybody was on him about. Can I just say I love how fickle sports fans are? All you heard last year is the home runs are hurting him because that's all he does. He's batting under 200. He's not getting on base. Well, he's got a good OPS. He's batting over 240, I believe, right now. He walked the first 2 times tonight, and he hit 2 bombs last night. So, and just talk about, again, this team coming up, like stepping up at the right time. JT's going down, as for those who have been living in a cave, I guess, for lack of better words. JT's knee was getting bad, and they kind of made a decision that said, apparently this has been something they've been talking about for a while. Like, you want to do surgery, here we go. He said apparently, according, I think it was Rob Thompson or somebody said that he said he could have kept going, but it's just, he didn't feel like the pain was going to get any better. So they said, do it now. You're going to be out now. Dombrowski says a month. And I have to imagine, especially with his position, it's got to be closer to 6 weeks before you get full productive JT Realmuto back.
What I'm actually questioning is if they can move, and at least just for a week or 2 after he comes back, or to get him back a little bit sooner, if they could put JT at first, move Harper to DH, and then you just got to live with Schwarber in left field on games that he's playing. And then, of course, maybe one out of 3 games, you won't have Schwarber in there at left. You could have somebody else. But, I mean, at least they kind of have that option if they want to just get JT back sooner than later. Because, I mean, it is a real question what's going to happen at catcher. He's not, in my opinion, he's not going to come right back and be able to catch day in and day out. Like, there's going to be times where maybe you have to keep Marchand up, but then who do you send down because you're going to have Stubbs up here as well? Like, you might have to carry that 3rd extra catcher just for the time being, a week or 2 into JT coming back because you don't know how he's going to come back at full speed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, or maybe just Stubbs catches a little bit more often than he normally did. I mean, right now I told you we had a bad 5th inning with Christopher Sanchez, and he was missing what he was missing big. That was one of the things. If anybody was noticing that he wasn't just kind of, because Christopher Sanchez really knows how to really paint the outside well. Like, he really kind of throws tough pitches for you to lay off of. But these were a little bit bigger misses. Now, is it because Marchand's behind the plate? I mean, we just saw they actually had a mound visit, and Bryce Harper called it. And Bryce Harper was talking to Christopher Sanchez during that time. It wasn't really Marchand. So, there's nothing wrong. Listen, he's just coming up from the minors. Doesn't really work with these guys. I'm not like upset about that, but it's good to see because everybody will get on Bryce Harper for some other dumb reason, but here is a first baseman calling, walking out, getting the timeout called, getting everybody, and he was in the ear of Christopher Sanchez versus the catcher who normally would be. Walsh coming in, oops, losing. Why did Ruiz come in? Why did or why didn't? I'm not sure. That's what he meant. 90B, as long as the batter is still in the box, the ball hits them before the batter's box leaves the box. It is a foul. Okay. All right. I did. Thank you for clearing that up. Our official umpire rules of MLB and hockey there, 90B. But yeah,
Yeah,
no.
one of the things that I didn't know about Marshawn and the London series and just the JT overall situation was Marshawn went to London with them. And because they knew that JT's knee was bothering him. And I honestly think JT was just like, let me get through this London series because it was a special trip. And then we can, reevaluate what we're going to do there. And everything I heard and read about was Raphael was hanging around with JT. He was hanging around the pitching coach. Like he was really trying to get a grasp and a study of what he could be stepping into if JT goes out on the IL. So, I mean, it did seem like the Phillies kind of knew that this could happen after the London series.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not putting it on Marshawn's shoulders, but I wonder if a little bit tonight with Christopher Sanchez kind of having a tough, like he might have struggled and not having a guy like JT to kind of help call, kind of maestro
that makes sense.
the game, played a little bit of a factor into it. So those are things that we're going to have to be worried about. That we're going to. It's nice to have this nice little cushion in our division. I believe we're 10 games up on the Braves as of right at this point, and you can be sort of experimental at this point. I know some of the conversation before this all kind of became public news was, talking about putting a Mendo Sosa at left field and seeing guys, kind of breaking guys some strides because they know, the thing is with JT going down, some of the conversation is we could see Trey Turner back as early as Monday, as well as Brandon Marsh. Trey Turner is not going down to the minors. They're going to bring him right back into this. Brandon was down. He actually didn't get to go to England, which kind of sucks, but he didn't get to go to England, and he was working down with the Iron Pigs.
Yeah.
So, it's everybody, these guys are going to be coming back. They could be coming back roughly around the same time. Brandon could even be back a little earlier.
The way that David Dahl is playing, I don't even know if you could send him back down because he'll be gone. Pache, you can't because of options. Really, the only person you have options with is Rojas.
And that's something I keep bringing up. I mean, like he's young enough where you can send him down, get away with it. Because like a lot of people, talking about trade deadline and moves that the Phillies could make. What are they going to do? By the way, Spencer Turnbull is in right now, it looks like. Talking about getting another outfielder, a more power bat outfielder, where you're not going to lose much defense. Maybe move Brandon Marsh back to center field, find a nice left fielder. If Nick Castellanos can step it up, Brandon Marsh can continue kind of get back to where he was. I mean, if I'm okay, like I said, I've been a big proponent for Johan Rojas to continue his growth, but he's young enough that you can send him back down, let him play if it's going to be for the betterment of this team. But it's like you guys got like a Mundo Sosa who we're not going to know what to do with. Whit Merrifield, who he's kind of having a little up and down here and there. But like these are guys that you got to make a choice of what you're going to do with them because like you said, you don't have any other really options because you can't send Dahl back down, correct? You can't send.
Yeah.
You can't send
Pache.
Pache. I honestly think Pache will be moved.
Well, here's what's very, very interesting. I mean, you keep bringing up Rojas, and there's a chance that he is not on this roster come the trade deadline because there's a lot of rumors swirling when it comes to Luis Roberts Jr., the center fielder from the White Sox. And if they have to if they want to trade for him, he's under contract. They have control until 2028. So there is a chance that they swap the center fielders, Roberts and Rojas. Rojas could be included in a deal along with some other pieces for Luis Roberts Jr., who is arguably one of the top 3 or 4 center fielders in the game. He's having a down year at the plate right now, but with a change of scenery and the chemistry of this team, I mean that can change very quickly. So I mean there really is a good chance that Rojas is not on this team going forward.
I mean, yeah, and that was my thing is like I understand he's top flight center fielder in the last few years. I mean, but it's been kind of trending downwards for him, and that's one thing I do worry about a little bit. In 2020, which it's really hard to gauge because teams didn't play a lot of. Oh, that's not good news. Spencer Turnbull just let up a 2-run home run to the Red Sox, but like I look at this as a trend. His batting average in 2020 was 233. Then he had a remarkable 2021 batting at 338 with 42 runs, 93 hits, 43 RBIs,
38 homers, right?
Huh?
38 homers. Was that year?
Something like that. Yeah. And only 61 strikeouts out of 275 at bats. So I mean that's really good. 2022 wasn't a bad year either, but it was a downtrend. He played more games. He went from 275 at bats to 380 at bats. He went to a 284, which I'm still not turning my nose up to as well. 77 strikeouts, a few extra walks out of the deal. RBI production did go up as well as the hit production, so that was good. But this last year, he was down to a 264. His strikeouts became a much bigger problem in that year. But they earned some more walks, but a lot more at bats. So it's like the percentage-wise, you got to look at that as well. Played a lot more games last year. He played the most games by far last year at 145. So this year, like you said, the White Sox are a struggling team. So it's really hard for me to gauge a player. But with him, like in 55 at bats, he has 7 hits, 7 runs scored, 10 hits, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, but 24 strikeouts. He's batting a 182. Now, I agree with you. This team, it just oozes chemistry, so it could be the difference maker there for a guy like him. But is that what you want right now? Do you need a guy that you have to hope he can come out of it, or does coming to Philly when you're playing in a market right now that's really just terrible? I mean, historically, right, having a historically bad year in the Chicago White Sox, kind of fighting with inside themselves. Do you take a risk of bringing them into a high pressure area of Philadelphia?
I mean, you make a good point, but I mean, with the way the Phillies are playing, their record, just the way that they're clicking on all cylinders, really, even though we're down 8-4 right now, I think that this is a year where Dombrowski is looking at it and like, hey, we're all in. Like, we were so close. We had the 2 years ago, the surprise of getting to the World Series. Last year, the Game 7 barn burner. and they didn't make it. And I think that, I mean, we've talked about the players and what they've said about it, how last year the NLCS really hurt them and how they're just really kind of just putting it all out there this season. Well, I think Dombrowski and Middleton are in that same boat, and they're not going to stop at anything until they get what they rightfully deserve, a trophy, a World Series. So if that means going out and even overspending a little bit for a Roberts Jr., who could have a very solid second half of the season, plate in the field. Like, I think that's the route that they're going to go. I don't think they're going to hold anything back at this point.
I kind of don't want them to hold anything back. I mean, you do have to worry about the future a little bit, but again, I would rather see some. I mean, listen, you take a chance with anything. If somebody's having a stellar year this year, he can come here and become cold because he's just mixing in and all that stuff. So, I mean, you take a chance with that no matter what. We know he has it. I don't know, but I think you can give up more. Like, I'm more about giving up prospects because prospects are prospects. I mean, I keep hearing people saying that Mick Abel is not touchable. I'm like, why? What has Mick Abel done that makes him untouchable?
People hear these names and the hype or overhype of them over a couple seasons, and they just think that they're going to be the next Doc Holliday or somebody once they get up there. Like, look at what happened with Sixto, and then look at what the hell is this? Oh, Spencer Howard. I mean, look at what these guys, like, they got us some really, really valuable pieces to this team, i.e. JT Realmuto. And I mean, look where they are now. They're not even Spencer Howard's still in the league, but I don't even think Sixto is doing anything right now. So I mean, you can only he did. You can only take these prospects so far, and if they're not like in a prime position to actually be added to your roster, then they're just wasting time down there. If you can move these guys and get something of value to be a big piece in the majors right now, It's a no-brainer.
Mystic jumping in here saying Phil's schedule in July and August is tough. I mean, that's true. I mean, things do ramp up. You see the Yankees in July. But I mean, baseball
Dodgers.
just ramps up in July and August normally anyway. I mean, even if you're in it, it's a borderline playoff style game. I mean,
Dude,
it's really, you know, what we're looking at. So
July is wild. You got Dodgers, Athletics, Cleveland Guardians for whoever doesn't know that name, and then the Yankees. I mean that those 4 series alone, like that, you don't get those series normally here in Philadelphia. So that's pretty cool.
no, it's going to be a good time. And guys, we're talking about that. So, Joe, where would you go get your tickets?
Oh, Sherry'sTickets.com.
That's absolutely correct. Sherry'sTickets.com, family owned and operated since 1946. Sherry'sTickets.com, sports, concert studio, you name it, they got it. Use that great promo code EoP10 to save 10% off Sherry'sTickets.com. No hidden fees. The price you see is the price you will pay. That's right. You're not going to get the checkout and get it slapped with an extra $100, $200 fees. The price you see is the price you pay, and you get additional 10% off by using that great promo code EOP10. Go to Sherry'sTickets.com. Use the best. Use Sherry'sTickets.com. Again, that promo code EOP10 to save 10% off at Sherry'sTickets.com. Let's hit some more of these comments here. Jeff saying, is Sanchez hurt? I mean, he fell off the cliff after the
He's
first
got sand
inning.
in it.
Huh?
He's got sand in it.
He said we've now pretty much through in this game. I mean, this team doesn't really throw in the towel just yet, but they might not use any of their high leverage pitchers at this point unless the guys start mounting some offense back here. But I don't know he's hurt. I think he had a bad inning, got shellacked, and I honestly I'm not looking for a blame. Couple things. A lot of these guys have a lot of time off right now, so.
Yeah, that's true.
We saw Wheeler not being 100%. I mean, he was good. Don't get me wrong. Wheeler's really good, but he took him especially the first inning or two to kind of get. He's been off for a week. Guys get a little amped up. We even saw that with Alvarado out in England. That was one of the things that we talked about earlier. Sometimes these guys are such creatures of habit. It makes a giant difference. So I play a little bit. They've been all traveling. They're now in Boston. They haven't been home yet. I'm not making excuses, but I expect a couple bad an outing. I actually didn't expect them to play as well as they did last night. To be honest with you, after coming back and only having a day off.
Yeah, I think last night's win was absolutely, welcomed. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it. I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure, especially because it was a day with such news of JT. Like I did think that there was an inkling of the team just rallying around that news and coming out and firing. And of course, Schwarber, first pitch of the game, and he sends a laser out to the outfield in the stands. So I mean, at least we got that. We got some Schwarber, some June Schwarber-ness going on. Who knows to see? And it's funny to what you were saying earlier about how people were saying like, oh well, the homers they're not enough, But then they were also complaining, say, well, yeah, he has homers, but they're solo homers. So you can never win when it comes to this stuff. But now he's finally, he's playing a lot more like a leadoff batter. I mean, he's even attempting to steal bases. And that's another complaint people had. Well, he's not a true leadoff guy. Well, he's drawing walks, he's getting singles, and of course he's hitting the long ball. I mean, what else do you want from this guy?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's acting like more of a leadoff hitter, and we're getting upset about it. So listen, he'll never win. People always, unless he's hitting 300 and 50 plus home runs, they're not happy. So listen,
He'll never hit 300.
He's one of the few spots I can't really complain about too much. Yes, complaining about Nick Castellanos up until recently, he's been cold as ice. Bryce Harper has had his up and down moments this year, but for the most part since May, even Bryson Stott since May. Alec Boehm's been down a little bit. I mean, still batting at 290, so I'm not turning my nose up it, but as of right now, his production has been not as good as it's been, in the beginning of the season into May. But that's
wild. What's wild is I honestly thought Bryce Harper was having a little bit of a down May as well, and then he comes out and he's a player of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm just missing it or what it is, but I mean, I think he's like ranked 6th for most hits in the league with like 162 or something like that. I mean, so the guy is getting his numbers, like, and he's not like I don't want to say he's getting his numbers like as a stat patter or anything like that. Like, he's one of the best players in the game. Like, if he has a down game or two, like, it's going to happen. Alvarado the other day, he had that stinker in London. It's going to happen. Christopher Sanchez has been playing great. It's going to happen every once in a while. Like, this team is on a historical run right now, and we can't get all up in our feels when they have, a bad inning or two. Like, these bad losses, they're going to happen.
Yeah, and we haven't had many of them. I mean, like I said, the Mets one was a bit of a blooper reel for both sides.
Yeah.
And part of it could have been, the traveling. The field was very different. I mean, a lot of the conversation was how bouncy the field was,
Yeah.
So that makes things different. The dimensions of the field were very different to people. And I was actually, right before that first game on Saturday, I'm sitting there, watching. I was, scrolling through Twitter, and there was a interesting tweet by Corey Seidman, and he said that in the first 4 games played in London, 72 runs were scored.
Yeah.
So that's in 2019 and 2023. So it's only 2 games prior to our London series last weekend. There's only been 4 games played with 72 runs. And I'm like, I retweeted and I said, that's 18 runs per game.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you think, like I said, I'm going to put my tin hat on for a second, but do you think the MLB is doing it on purpose to make more of an exciting game for the newcomers in England getting excited about, making baseball's an exciting game? You think they would get excited about a pitcher's duel like you and I would?
Well, actually, and I can't remember which series it was. I just remember the final score of one of them, and it was 17-11. And that's why the dimensions are different there.
One last year.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to get misquoted. But that's why they changed the dimensions of the field, because they wanted it to be more of a low-scoring competitive game instead of scoring 28 runs in said game. So that's why it was a little bit different.
But like I said, there's the differences there. This team's going to have, they're going to be playing better teams. They're not going to be sweeping teams as much as they have been. They're not going to be blowing teams out like they have been. Like, take this message here from Jeff. I'm not feeling good about going into Baltimore with what we have. Could be looking at losing this series and Baltimore. Boston is going tomorrow, and he's been their best pitcher. But Jeff, at the same time, I'm going to tell you, this team has stepped up. They played was it the Blue Jays earlier, and they had one of the best pitchers in the American League. And we went up against them, and they put a show on against them. So, I mean, this team steps up. So I get it. Right now, it's not ideal. JT going down is a big thing. I've already alluded to her earlier. Between not being home for a while, coming back from England, and now you got people fight me on the BCIB thing, and I put that as the complete package, not just offensively. Not just a guy who can gun a guy down at trying to steal second base or third base, but a maestro to the game, like helping these guys call games. Zach Wheeler can get away with it more than anybody because Zach Wheeler is top, one of the top pitchers in the league. Aaron Nola maybe even could get away with it, but like guys, your third and fourth, your fourth and your fifth guy, maybe even your third guy might not be able to do that as well. We'll see. Ranger Suarez might have to, I don't know how they're going to handle the Marchand and the Stubbs thing. Are they going to go like one every other day? Are they going to treat Stubbs like the starting catcher and let him go like 2 or 3 games in a row after this? I don't know. Stubbs, I think, gives them the better chance to win from that aspect. Marchand, I don't know what he's going to do from the plate right now. We're getting a very small sample size here, but that I think plays a big factor. So there's going to be an adjustment for our pitching staff, both geographically as well as dealing with a catcher, because now it's going to be all on them to call the game.
I am here. My camera is frozen for whatever reason, but
the whole time.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah, you've been frozen this about not the whole time, but for the last like 15 minutes probably.
Oh wow, I didn't even know.
You just look very intense right now, Joe. Really,
I know.
Intense.
I'm looking at him like I really wish that wasn't the face I was putting on, but
Could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse.
If we can get Trey Turner back and on fire, the bat should wake up. I mean, that's the other thing is like there is some things coming. The sucky part about your catcher going down is like you can't mix and match a catcher position like you can maybe sending an Mundo Sosa out to try left field and playing along with that. Like you can't put him behind the plate and have him play catcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, you're 100% right, but I really don't understand the whole Sosa to left field whole thing. Like, so he has to go back to the bench. Like, you're not gonna take in my opinion, a David Dahl out of left or a Brandon Marsh when he comes back out of left, just so you can have Sosa play out there. I feel like Dahl has been good with his bat. I feel like Brandon Marsh and maybe he'll get a slow start when he gets back, but he's going to be, a top production guy when he comes back again. Like, I don't think you have to move Sosa to left just to keep his bat in the lineup. Like, you don't know if his defense is going to be as good in the outfield as it is at shortstop. Has he not missed the beat since Trey Turner has been out? Like, yes, absolutely. He's been really good. But you're not going to create another problem with another position just to keep Sosa in your lineup when the guys that you could be replacing him with have been productive as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And they're just trying to figure like we have like a good problem, Joe. The good problem is we have so many offensive weapons to choose from. Like it's like what do you do? Like I mean, does it come at the trade deadline where you like from a bench standpoint I wouldn't want to do it, but like where you could use a Pache, like, listen, we really want to keep him here, but we know we can't move him down. Another team a young team who has a good player, but really not in the playoffs this year, maybe they'll take him because they can have him under control for a little while. Those kind of factors play into it. I'm not going to say you're going to get like a really big ransom for Christian Pache, but I mean, that does play a little bit of a factor in there, what we have to do going forward here. But I mean, this and then Dahl is actually up the bat right now. It looks like David Dahl. There's there's first and second right now, 2 outs, top of the seventh. David Dahl's up, which he probably would have had a home run today too if it wasn't for the big green monster.
I don't like that thing. Like, I know it's Fenway and it's historical. I don't care. Get rid of that thing. Like, it's time. It's ugly.
Here's my thing. I don't understand how they get away with having like metal stuff behind them with nothing. There's no protection.
Yeah, it's true.
Like you hear it like hit off the walls like tank. It's like hitting aluminum. Like guys are crashing into like. Well, I'm like getting like all cringy like when the left fielder's running out there. I'm like, Dahl's gonna get like cut in half by one of those corners on the signs or something. Like it's like don't play with rusty stuff, kid. But go ahead and play at Fenway. But yeah, no, it's an interesting. I mean, have you been to Fenway?
No, I haven't, and it's actually just popped in my head that my cousin's at this game right now.
Oh, really?
And now, I'm gonna have to text him and say that he's a mush.
He's a mush. Yeah, you gotta play him a little bit.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, like I said, one thing, like I know, like I said, we've seen Jeff in here get a little little nervous. But I get it. You should be nervous. Like the team isn't complete. But knowing that it's 1 month and we've seen this team, like you said, we keep bringing up Mundo Sosa. They really hasn't skipped a beat having no Trey Turner there. So let's see what the other guys can pick up where the slack for him. And it may not be Stubbs and it may not be Marchand picking up the batting slack, but if they can just play okay and the other guys can pick up the batting like Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos and those kind of guys. And Trey Turner comes back and he can kind of pick up where he left off on without having any real big divots in his game. But that's where they needed that's where the pickup needs to come from. Like that's where we need to see it happen and keep ourselves afloat. Like you don't want to go in there and say, all right, go ahead and lose series. It's okay. But you can't get upset if you lose one series. I don't care who it is. If it's a bad team, a good team, you can't everyone's to throw the towel. We saw how we acted between that rocky West Coast trip into the Rockies and to Colorado and to San Fran. I get it. It's not ideal. It's not what you want to see. You want to see them keep rolling. But look how far they still are above, and we had that moment in the season. If we keep those moments minimized, this team is still a damn good team. And it's not like Trey Turner or JT Realmuto is not coming back. I mean, if
No.
everything plays out well, like I said, I'm feeling it's more of a 6-week thing than a 1 month thing, like Dombrowski said earlier.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well. In fact,
Especially with
that's
his
kind of
position.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of just what I'm telling myself as well. So then I'm not sitting here in a month thinking like, okay, when is the day? Like if I'm mentally prepared for 6 weeks and he comes back prior to that, and then that's just gravy on top of it all.
Yeah. Speaking of, we were talking about going out, checking out Fenway. You could be out there with PhillySportsTrips.com right now. You could. And I tell you guys constantly, do not wait. But you do. You don't listen because now you're like, I want to go, but you can't go. You can go to Pittsburgh, PNC Park. There are some spots available there. But, of course, the Boston trips was sold out, and it was too late to go. The Baltimore trip is sold out, too late to go. The Chicago trip, Joe, is sold out. Do
Of
not
course, it's
wait,
sold out
Joe.
now.
Everybody's going. You want to go to PhillySportsTrips.com. Go to Pittsburgh. They have that coming up. They even have some local home games. They're doing Italian Heritage Night in August, which I'm actually going to try to get out to with Philly Sports Trips. It's at Citizens Bank Park. All the Eagles games, including the Brazil game, is open for you. So go to PhillySportsTrips.com. Wish Vince a very happy birthday, of course, for today. And nothing says happy birthday to Vince like signing up for one of his trips and telling that EoP sent you. That's one of his favorite things he likes to hear. He says you can forget the happy birthdays, just say EoP sent us. That's what he wants to hear. Go to PhillySportsTrips.com, check it out right now, and tell him EoP sent you. So let's change gears for a little
Still
bit.
frozen.
You're still frozen. All right, Joe. Unless you want to pop back in, I can hold it on for a second while we do this.
I was thinking of that, but then I looked at the screen and I was like, I'm gonna end up hitting that end button and screw the whole thing up. So let's just keep this going.
We'll keep it going.
As we are.
Serious. Joe's his own ventriloquist now. So let's talk. Let's change gears a little bit here. Let's talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. You got mini camp going on right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm watching it. I'm seeing. I mean, they're really trying a lot of guys out at different positions, Joe.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I know Quinton Mitchell said they were trying him out different spots. I know Cooper DeJean, they've been trying him out at different spots. But there's a new narrative out there, Joe, as we call it, a new narrative. And I'm not here to sit there and like, oh, well, these guys are, whatever. But sometimes it's annoying. I have to bring it up. This whole Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts is kind of down on Nick Sirianni. He didn't speak very highly enough, or that when he was asked about how Nick's doing, he was very vague and just like non-committal on his answer. Is there really anything there, Joe, in your eyes, or is this just another thing to keep the conversation going while the birds are kind of in their lull?
This is absolutely that to a T, Al. They need something to talk about, and this is what they're going to run with. Oh, and I know I'm not even going to say the call letters of the stations or the guys on the stations doing this, because really they don't deserve it, because it's basically like it's the internet's version of clickbait. Like you go on there. No, I mean, we're talking the Phillies on a historic run, best team in baseball, and they're making up garbage for the Eagles just so they have a topic to talk about the Eagles with. Like it blows my mind. Like, when has Jalen Hurts ever gone on these long, winded explanations for questions that he's asked, these answers? Like, in my opinion, he's always been say little, keep it to the point, and move on. Like, I don't care that he wasn't, the rah-rah guy for Nick Sirianni. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I don't think that they have a broken relationship or anything like that. I think that this is the media taking it, seeing like, oh, like the light bulb went off when he didn't come back and be the rah-rah guy. So okay, this is the way we're going to spin it, the way we're going to flip it on our program next day. And then it's going to get everybody up in a tizzy and say, oh no, is there controversy in Philadelphia? Oh, will Kenny Pickett be the starting quarterback come week 3, 4, 5, whatever it is? No, it's not going to come to that. Jalen Hurts is the franchise quarterback for this team. He has a new coordinator. Let's not forget that, like, a guy in Brian Johnson who he has had a relationship since he was just a little kid. That was the guy who exited. So now he has a new offensive coordinator. Maybe he's like observing. Maybe he doesn't know how to answer that at the moment. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like he wasn't at the voluntary, OTAs. Of course, he's at the mandatory minicamp. Like everybody is just getting a fresh start with all this. Like he's not going to come in and have all the answers that you need right at the moment. Like he's coming in and he's doing his due diligence about him, his teammates, and the coaches. They have a whole new staff basically, other than Nick Sirianni. Like it's okay not to have all these answers yet.
Yeah, and there really isn't answers right now. Everything's up in the air. We don't know. I mean, you just hit on it here. Like, yes, there is a lot of returning guys, especially on the offense, but the O-line has some question marks. Now, who is going to play right guard? There's a lot of options there that are very interesting options, but you also have a new center. We were going from one of the best centers in the game to a new center who could be maybe one day, but we don't know. The likeliness of being the best center in the game this year, probably very slim, but could be a damn good center. We don't know. So there's a lot of new there. There is a lot of new on both sides. You got Kellen Moore. I mean, he said today or the other day, 95% new offense, which, by the way, people read into that as being a negative thing, that there's a 95% different offense than he had last year. I look at that as a great thing because our offense was stagnant, stale, and just predictable. Yeah. So if it's 95% different, I would have been scared if he said it's 75%.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the play calling and the offense last year, I mean, there are plays that Jalen and AJ and a couple other guys just like kind of just ignored what the play call was, and they wanted to run their own thing. Like that is a major problem. Like that's not a Nick Sirianni thing. That is a player thinking that he knows best. Maybe we should be looking at Jalen Hurts. Maybe we shouldn't be worried about Nick Sirianni and his look and all this. Maybe we should be looking at Jalen Hurts and the way he responds to things. Like it doesn't just because he didn't say anything good nor bad about Nick Sirianni, the focus shouldn't be on Nick Sirianni. Maybe it should be on Jalen Hurts and his maturity and his leadership.
No, I mean, absolutely.
It's very telling, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I agree with you with most of that. And it's like, here's the thing: is like maybe he's more frustrated again because he has new coordinator. Maybe he was upset that last year, coming off a Super Bowl year, a very great year for the Philadelphia Eagles, that he thought, then you're going to give me two kind of unproven commodities on both sides, especially my offensive coordinator. Maybe he didn't want Brian Johnson. Maybe he did. And he's upset it didn't work out. He has to learn a new thing. He's got Kellen Moore here, who's a different thing. I mean, we have some audio. Let me see if I can pull it up while we're talking here. But of him during this his interviews, his post-camp interviews today, and you can listen to it if you can really pick it apart if you want to. For the most part, it sounds positive. It sounds like he kind of takes a couple digs at the fact that I got another coordinator. It is different, but he said he also wants to make it his own. He wants to own it. So it's like him and Kellen are the chefs, and he's trying to get his own little flavor into it too. At the same time, I'm going to play it real quick, and then we'll break it down a little bit after that. All right?
Sure.
I think this whole entire off season, it's been about learning, and taking in a new knowledge, new perspective, in the minds that we have in the room. And I think throughout the whole entire thing, that's kind of been the emphasis. You get to a point where you kind of feel, hey, I'm gonna feel comfortable with this. I'm gonna like this, but that time comes where you can rep it later on. But right now it's been a lot of new inventory in. Majority of it, probably 95% of it being new. And so it's just been that process, and it's been a fun process because you get to see what works for other people. And the number of coaches that I've had since I've been here, I've been able to take in a lot of new knowledge and new understanding. And so I think the goal coming in was to, learn Kellen's offense and master it. And I think that's been a process. And I think by the end of it, I want it to be mine, and have it in my own way. I think that's kind of a credit to, again, the lack of continuity with that, and it being a thing where I've kind of had to take all these new things and new voices and still go out there and be successful and efficient. And so I think that's exactly what's going to happen again.
So, yeah, I mean, like, what I read there is he's learning, and there's a big change for him. That's a big change. It's a whole new offense. Even though he's got a lot of the other key players, he's still got A.J. Brown. He's still got, he got him extended, so he's not going anywhere. He's got Devonta Smith. He's not going anywhere. The third wide receiver up in the air right now. Still got one of the premier tight ends in the game right now. But it's a whole new offense. There's going to be a lot of changing. So, like, I hear people like, oh, well, Kenny Pickett's having a better practice today. What does that mean?
Who cares? Well, listen, everything Jalen Hurts just said right there, in my mind, is 100% right. Because not only is it a new offensive coordinator and a new offense, but there's going to be a lot of new techniques, a lot of new stuff that's going to be introduced to him because Brian Johnson didn't do it. Like even Devonta Smith came out and said, "Oh, we're able to move a lot more." And somebody asked, "You mean motion?" And he said, "Yes." That's going to be something new that Jalen Hurts is going to kind of have to learn to run his offense around. There's going to be a guy in motion. They have to keep the defense on their toes. There's going to come a time where Jalen Hurts has to line up in the I formation. That's something that he hasn't done a whole ton of. And there's going to be a lot of times when he is going to be the main attraction running out and Saquon's going to be a blocker, or you can have a split running backs and he's under the eye. Like, there's going to be a ton of different things. So again, what is this? Day 4 or 5 when it comes to this mini camp and these practices, and he is learning an entirely new offense and playbook. So him to go out and say, my top priority right now is learning and try making it my own and put my own style and finesse on it. I absolutely love that answer.
Yeah. Mr. chiming in again here. Fangio is testing these guys. He really wants to know, studying the playbook. I agree with this. Like I said earlier, Quinyon Mitchell said they've been trying that almost like every secondary position. Cooper DeJean's been moved around a little bit. He's saying he's just kind of soaking it up like a sponge. So, like, there is truly, he's really trying to see. I don't know, just even saying who's paying attention or reading the playbook, but, like, we know how much the defense does depend on kind of flexibility in guys and guys shifting around, moving around. We talk about motion on the offense, but you see a lot of deception in his defense. So, that's that. If a guy gets caught up and he has to play a little out of his normal positioning, he needs to be able to do it. So there's a big growing thing, and I know a lot of people are super excited about how this team was built. And I know you went through the schedule when it first came out, and I still got them a 11 to 12 win team for the most part. Could be more, but there's a lot of learning curve here, and I keep saying this, I keep bringing this up. After what happened last year, I mean, that was like a historical crash. That wasn't just like they had a bad handful of games and they got punted from the playoffs because they a bad call or something. That was a historical crash. So we don't even know what we have. We don't know. It's kind of like a clean slate with some of the same players. You got 2 new coordinators, 2 I feel very much more comfortable with than I would have, the guys from last year, I guess. Now, hindsight being 2020. But, there's still a lot of question marks going into this. So it's kind of hard to tell. I still think they'll be top in the division, knowing I don't think that the Giants, to me, don't seem improved. Washington, it's kind of be up in the air with them right now. We'll see what's going on with that. I really don't trust Dan Quinn as a coach, like a head coach. We've already seen that experiment so far. The Dallas Cowboys, man, I don't know what they're doing. They're not taking care of any of their players. Those guys might just come out and be like, I'm not going to get hurt because I'm not going to be playing here next season. So, I mean, that might give us a little upper hand in the division. But, this Brazil game is a big game because you got both teams trying to. Can the Green Bay? I mean, Green Bay just signed Jordan Love, right? They extended him 4 years?
Did they? I didn't even know that.
Pretty sure. I'll
Okay.
pull it up. Jordan Love just had it up. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, regardless, we saw the Jordan Love offense of the Green Bay Packers last year, and I mean, they went much further into the playoffs than the Eagles did. They really looked like a possible Super Bowl contender last year. Like, this is going to be an extremely tough game, Week 1, and it annoys me that it's a home game for the Eagles.
Yeah, but it doesn't annoy me a little bit. Like I said, but you have to understand, you got one team that was on the uptick, and you had another team that was on the downtick, big time. So you got one team trying to go back to the winning ways, and you got another team trying to keep things the way they were, which is really difficult. Going to a completely different country, far away, first game of the season, it's a Friday night. There might be some weird stipulations depending on how true some of these rumors are. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here that make things difficult to figure out, and kind of have to just kind of go along with the ride in this case. Like, let me ask you a question. We talked about the Phillies a little while back. Is anything to you, a Super Bowl or a World Series appearance, anything less than that? Is that a letdown? I asked you about the Eagles. Where does the letdown line, knowing we came off of last year going into this year? Where's that letdown line for Joe Sheeran?
That's actually a really great question, because on paper I look at this team and I think probably the best wide receiver duo in the league. You have Jalen Hurts, who I do think will have a bounce back season. You have the addition of Saquon Barkley. Yes, you do have question marks at the offensive line, but then even on the other side of the ball, you have the additions to the secondary. You have Jordan Davis slimming up. You have Jalen Carter getting into his second year. Like, everything on paper to me looks like they are going to be a really, really good team, a division winner, playoff team, hopefully, into the championship game at the very least. But then I also look at it as new coaching staff. Still, I'll bring up question marks at offensive line. You got to keep your quarterback upright and healthy. And it's just coming off of a historic, downfall last year. It's like, how far can my expectations go at this point? Because it damn sure isn't going to be wild card. It's not going to be divisional series. Like, it has to be at least championship series or bust, right? And then just, if they get to the Super Bowl again, it's the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I'm that far, Joe. Like, I don't know. It's really hard to gauge this team right now, because we don't know what we have. We really don't know what we have. And how people gauge Jalen Hurts' feelings on anything, let alone Nick Sirianni, is mind-boggling to me, to the fact that his demeanor is very neutral most of the time. You know what I mean? He's not an excitable guy. He's not a guy who's going to get angry or start kicking shit over or something like that. But at the same time, it's hard to read him. But, there's a lot of pluses, but there's also a lot of minuses or questions you got to answer. Like, will he be able to get Kellen Moore's? Would this be a good fit for Jalen Hurts? Or is it going to take a full season from the really start to gauge himself? I don't know. And that's why my expectations, I still think they're good enough to be better than a lot of other teams in the league, especially with some of their schedule opponents coming up. But there also could be some letdowns too. So, the NFC East being kind of a conundrum might help them a little bit too from a playoff standpoint. But I mean, at this point, I just want to see, like, this team get back on track, get back to the winning ways. I really don't. I can honestly say I don't have expectations, but I do believe they should be better than they should be above 500 team at least. But I still believe should be better than that.
I think we got to go into this season just with the mindset that last year's second half of the season was just an absolute fluke. I mean, they go 10-1, they get through the quote unquote gauntlet, and then they just they fall off. They fall off the cliff. And the fact that Fangio was here 2 years ago, and a lot of our defense is still here from that 2 years ago, that makes me feel better that it's not just it's a new defensive coordinator. There's a whole lot of new things that they're going to be introduced to, because when Fangio was here, they were already introduced to it. And of course, there's going to be more to learn, because he wasn't the guy. It was Jonathan Gannon's team, but Fangio was here as I can't even remember the title of his role, an overall counselor, I guess, something like that. So I feel good on the defensive side of the ball. I do think that they are going to be just much improved, because I do think the secondary is that much improved. There is, of course, question marks of where you're going to line up. If James Bradbury will still be here, those question marks will figure themselves out. I do like Kellen Moore and the offensive side of the ball. I think that's why I think the first game is a loss by the Packers and stuff like that. I think it's going to take a lot more time for the offense to start to gel under these new plays and stuff, opposed to the defense.
Yeah, and so, one thing, my gauge is, if you want to get before the season actually starts, is going to be those group practices, those team practices, not so much the preseason games, where they get to test out that situational football. Test out Kellen Moore's red zone offense, Vic Fangio's red zone defense, things like that. Where can our secondary? How can our new young secondary be helpful? Who will be there? Quentin is checking in saying 10-7 wild card would be good enough for me, considering all the changes. So Quentin, you're saying 10-7 is good as long as they make the playoffs. Would be 10-7 but no playoff be acceptable? Joe, is them missing the playoff acceptable to you at all?
Absolutely not. This team's too damn good. They are too good to miss the playoffs, especially when you're playing in a division that kind of doesn't have an identity with the rest of these teams right now. I mean, like you said, the Dallas Cowboys, they don't want to spend any money because they don't have the money to spend. You got this diva in Dak Prescott who is about to take this team hostage with a new contract to where he wants $100 million, for a season. That's the way it seems like it's trending. And then, of course, the Redskins, new coach, rookie quarterback. I don't see much going on with them, even though we've been saying for years their problem was Dan Snyder, and finally they got rid of that headache. So could they take in a little bit of an uptick? Yeah, they could. And the Giants honestly could be some sleepers. They could. But are the Eagles worse than the Giants? Absolutely not. The Eagles should win this division probably handedly. I mean, I think 10-7 is a real disappointing season, whether you make the wild card or not. And it's going to be a very tough season to watch, with us watching a total of 7 losses, knowing that this team is that much better than 7 losses.
Well, I mean, we'll find out. I mean, that's the thing I think this team is much more talented, but we got to see if they're better. If they can gel. I mean, we know certain aspects can gel, but does this team fit the Kellen Moore, offense? Do we have the right pieces of defense for Vic Fangio to be successful, or is this kind of a growing year for them? Where they're going to see the guys who's going to stay and the guys who are going to go. Yeah, we've seen, Jordan Davis trimmed down. Let's see if that affects him in any which way. Can Jalen Carter take a next step forward? Does Huff, is he able to produce like he's been joining us? Moving into coming to Philly. There is still a lot. I mean, the one area I actually really think they do the most improvement is, which I'll probably get a little flack from this, would be the linebacker core a little bit.
No, I think you're right about that for sure.
I think Devin White is a really good possibility of good linebacker as long as he takes that step forward. That's what I look at here.
But I don't know. And sorry, hold on. Sorry, not to interrupt. But with this mentality of 10-7 and wild card is good enough for me, I don't know how you're happy with that, because then that means that you're expecting this team to be worse than they were last year. And if we're saying last year there was a historical drop off and a historical end to the season that none has ever seen before, that means that this team in this season coming up is going to be worse than that team. You can't tell me that you're happy with that
Well,
when you're
record-wise,
that
but
pissed off about the ending of last season.
well, here's my thing: it's not the record, Joe. I take the record out of it when I say how pissed off or how upsetting the ending of last season was. Like, yeah, they would be one game, they'd be one less win than they did last season.
Right.
But with that being said, I'm not where it wasn't so much the record; it was being 10-1 and ending up with 11 wins with 7 games left to it. You know what I mean? Or with
Sure.
6 games or whatever it is. That's
okay, with that mindset, say they win the first 10 games and then they lose the next 7, but they still make the wild card. That's still okay?
No. See, that's not okay. That's my thing. Is like I can't just give you a record. I need to see growth. I need to see this team play well. I don't mind them if they lose a game, maybe to a team they shouldn't, because especially in the beginning, like, not saying they shouldn't lose to Green Bay, but Green Bay, they lose to them. There's a lot of obstacles in that game between the travel and all that. But I'm talking about a team that implodes like that. If they have another implosion, no, that will be unacceptable. Unacceptable. I don't care if they end up a game better than last year. If they still implode, that's a problem. And that comes to a locker room problem, and that's a Nick Sirianni problem. I think that's where Nick Sirianni, if they implode like they did last year, I think Nick Sirianni is gone. There's no chance he's around.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Absolutely, yeah, that's fair.
But no, it's difference between being, to me, 10-7, 11-6, and 12-5, and all that stuff. There's a difference between that. They played good hard games. They maybe lost a couple they shouldn't have because ball didn't bounce their way or whatever it is. But outside of having a implosion, but we talked about all last year how it was a cakewalk. We just got to get through this gauntlet. They got slapped around by the Niners. Then they lose to Dallas. All right. They're tired. They need a break. Okay, here they come. They're going to play the Cardinals. They're going to play the Giants twice. They're going to do they got all these things to go on, and they just. They S the bed totally, and that's where it's unacceptable. If you're losing the teams that you shouldn't lose to consistently, and it's just falling apart, and like I said, the problem people had with this team last year more than anything at that point was they looked beat. They looked like they couldn't play another game of football. Half the guys didn't look like they want to be there, and the other guys looked like they were trying to keep mommy and daddy from separating, but that wasn't going to happen.
One of my biggest pet peeves about last season, I mean, I'm sure we've said it, but a majority of the media out there, the radio stuff, is they'll just beat the ever living crap out of this and say, well, the Eagles defense sucked last year. They were horrible. They couldn't do this. They couldn't do that. It was the same defense as 2 years ago, minus the defensive coordinator. So how can you take the same defense from a Super Bowl season and then they have that collapse and just say, oh, it was because they suck, because they couldn't do this, they didn't have the talent, but it's the same defense except for a different defensive coordinator. So how are we not blaming the defensive coordinator for that and the defense? It's the same damn team.
We are. I think at this point, Brandon Graham came out and pretty much said that not too long ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Brandon Graham was it's funny. It's like he almost tried to backtrack a little bit, but he's like, screw it, I'm committed. You're like, no, we just didn't have the right coordinators in the right spot. Joe, Quentin's asking, are the Eagles better than the Cowboys at this point? At this moment in time, are the Eagles better than the Cowboys?
Yes.
I think so. I think they're more dysfunctional than we are, and I think the Eagles have a better chance of trending up right now than the Cowboys do.
How many years was Kellen Moore with the Chargers? Was it just 1 year?
I believe just the one.
Okay, so do you think Kellen Moore can come in with some information on Dallas? I mean, I think that's a little bit of.
Well, no, hold on. I'll tell you right now. Kellen, because he was there. He was there with Tom McCarthy. What's his name? Who's the head coach there now? McCarthy, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, the head coach of the Cowboys.
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. I knew I had the name, but
so I think about the Chargers coach.
Let's see.
I mean, I think Kellen Moore being with the Cowboys for X amount of years, I think that alone gives the Eagles an edge.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair enough. So he was with the Cowboys from 2019 to 2022. Yeah, just last year with the Chargers.
Just last year.
Just last year, yeah. So he goes, I expect this team to have growing pains due to personal changes, coaching. Yeah, I mean, especially in the beginning. I mean, I think we all kind of, and Joe, that's why Joe kind of alluded to Quentin earlier about probably being a loss in Green Bay for that, one of the many reasons.
Yeah, it's a brand new coaching staff. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. I mean, to be honest with you, they could drop the Packers and they could drop the Saints game. I know there's a home game in between there, but I mean, there's a real chance that they can go 1-3 the first 3 weeks of the game. I'm sorry, the first 3 weeks of the season.
Remember, there's technically 2 home games, 2 away games before the bye, but one of the home games is in Brazil. So they technically have 3 away games before they even have their bye. So they only have 1 home game before the bye happens. So there's
I'm worried about anything, it's that week bye, that week 5 bye. I mean, then you have to go another 12 weeks of straight play. I mean, I guess the only thing that helps is after Thanksgiving, you don't even have to get on another plane. Everything's local.
Yeah, it's right after Thanksgiving. They only have like 1 or 2 plane rides after that. I think it's like Dallas and the Rams, right? I believe. Actually, I have the schedule right here.
The Rams is the last plane ride they have to take.
So after the bye week, they have, I guess, Dallas, LA, I guess Cincinnati technically. They probably fly out to that.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I mean, Baltimore, I guess that's a bus trip. They're not flying out to Baltimore, so yeah. But yeah, I mean, listen, like I don't know what my expectations for the Eagles are this year. I don't know. Like I can't. I'm trying to maybe kind of go in there purposely with none. I don't want to blow this team up in my head and go 15 wins easily, because I don't feel that way. But I also don't feel like they're going to be under 500. I mean, even though you really can't be, it's either above or below.
Right.
But it's I don't know. It's kind of a wait and see situation with me. I want to see how does Jalen take to this new offense. Maybe that's where people are seeing some frustration, because he is learning something new. So it's a little frustrating that he probably hears people getting on him about not being super positive. I think people are reading into things way more than they are. But Joe, I remind you that this show is brought to you by David R. Cherry, cherryinjurylaw.com. All your workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law needs. David R. Cherry is the man with the plan. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com, 610-565-0300. Again, cherryinjurylaw.com, or call them at 610-565-0300. And also, I don't know if you've been noticing, I've been partaking a little bit during the show. Our new friends over at the Sterling Pig here, the Technicolor Haze. It's an hazy India Pale Ale. So I'm enjoying this quite. I've had a few. I have some here for you too. They gave me some for you to try.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I've been there. Me and my wife have been there multiple times. They got great food. Their nachos are great. Their wings are great. Of course, their beer is great. I mean, I was a big fan of Sterling Pig before we became friends with them. So I highly, highly recommend them.
Yeah, no, great place, and we'll have more information about them coming probably not too distant future. And also, guys, for all you friends, right prior to us, our buddies here at Philly Press Box Radio were just on. They had a great interview with Neil Hartman. But also, they have their 500th episode coming up, Joe, later this month in about a couple weeks. Sunday, June 23rd to be exact, at 1:30. Philly Press Box Radio episode number 500, live on location at the Irish Rover Station House at 1033 South Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, PA, in the 19047. They're going to have Joe Watson, Jim Jackson, and Lou Nolan all in the house. It's the 50th anniversary of the Flyers Cup win. And so they are bringing in, of course, Joe Watson, who was part of that two-time Stanley Cup championship. Jim Jackson, who's been the Flyers play-by-play guy for many, many years, as well as Lou Nolan, who's been there for a long, long time as well, being the in-arena guy. So come on out. We'll be there. I'm going to be there. Joe might be coming by. We're going to have a bunch of other EoP guys there.
Sir.
It's going to be a great time. And come out and say hi and meet Jim, Joe, and Lou. It's going to be a great time. Come out to the Irish Rover Station House at 1033 South Bellevue Avenue, Langhorne, PA. And, of course, celebrate Chet and Bill's 500th episode. What a mark.
Yeah, that's really cool. 500. Yeah. That's 500 episodes. That's pretty remarkable.
It's very remarkable. And, guys, don't forget, the Phillies postgame will be live in the next not too long from now. They're the bottom of the 8th right now. If they get out of this, they'll have a chance to hopefully get 3 more runs to at least tie the game. And then I believe it's Matty B on the call tonight for the Fightins final. So you'll have that tonight. And then tomorrow morning, Phil Stifle is at it again with Trending in the AM right here on EoP Sports like it is every Monday through Friday starting at 8 a.m. on EoP Sports. Check out EOPsports.com. Sign up for the newsletter and all the other great stuff we have coming out there. As well, I should also have had this ready, but I didn't, so let me pull it up. We also have a great lineup here at EoP. So if you missed any of the stuff, it is podcast. Of course, go to YouTube, go to our Facebook page, wherever you watch your shows. Tomorrow, we got Trending AM, Football Stories Live, Fly Like an Eagle podcast, The Attacking Third, and, of course, another Fightins final for you. And the whole weekend, we got plenty of things lined up for you coming forward. So please check us out. Joe, anything else before we head out of here?
No. I mean, I think that covers it for now.
All right, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday at 8:30. Of course, I'm on the finals tomorrow. So you'll see me tomorrow night. And I believe Saturday as well. So I'll play for you as well on that. So, guys, please check us out. We enjoy you watching along. Thanks for all the guys coming in, making this show fun as well. We'll check you next time. I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joe Sheeran.
And we out.